All right.
Okay, we are live.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions on the model?
So do you want to start at the beginning where it says summarize the health belief model, how it works?
Yeah, if you had any questions or just if anyone needed help understanding it, go through how it works.
I don't really have any questions on it. When I talked to Brother Nilsson, he was saying to just kind of as if we were in a discussion, and he said, summarize the health belief model, and you would summarize it on the thing, on the discussion post. So I guess I would have just said in summary that it's, taking the perceived susceptibility and severity, which are kind of known as threats, so to speak, and then taking that threat and applying it to their perceived benefit of an action or their perceived barrier to taking that action. So there's the risk and then there's the rewards. And primarily they're stating that that's pretty much how we work as human beings. From all the studies and things that they've shown, especially with things like tuberculosis or AIDS or the breast cancer or anything like that, even if you make it really easy to get, it's free, you put the education out there, unless they perceive it as we perceive it as a threat, either to our health or our future or our environment, we're less likely to be motivated to change or to investigate it. And then that level of motivation is enhanced when we get a reward. So if it's in a work environment, maybe you get a discount on your insurance, or you get, a gift certificate for, losing the most weight or whatever, or just health in general. You're going back to the doctor and he's saying, you've got to hit these benchmarks in order to avoid surgery or whatnot. So you've got the risk and the rewards, and that's basically the two key factors that's going to motivate you to make a positive change with regards to health. That's how I understood it, but anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times the majority of people, they want to gain something from whatever they're going to do. I mean, that's pretty natural. And so those kind of incentives and those kind of things, or even if they just perceive it as a threat, they're going to want to get the exam or do the certain action so that they can know if they have the problem, they can treat it early. And so it's kind of the level of importance to the people as well. I thought it was interesting too.
Mm-hmm. Level of importance, absolutely. I guess if they perceive it as a threat, somebody be like, eh. Okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was just going to ask if everyone had to the final, needed to go through that together. The final presentation on the group of musicians and smoking.
You're breaking up a little bit, Brandon.
Yeah, you're breaking.
The final, yeah. Oh, where it says to
was everyone
that
able to go through the final PowerPoint presentation?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so are we supposed to read through it?
It says to read through it, but if we've all been through it and know kind of what it's talking about and some of the main points, then I don't know if we actually want to spend the time walking through it together, as far as slide by slide, or if we just need to summarize and kind of review the key concepts together.
I'm for reviewing the key concepts. I think we started with A on the belief model, even with the smoking and stuff. You could clearly see how they were like, oh, we put out brochures and flyers, but until we really went and said, hey, you're going to lose work. You're not going to get the gigs. They clearly brought out how you've got to do that perceived threat. because just all the other things seem to be niceties. They found that the brochures were wasted or thrown away. People didn't even look at them. People didn't even attend when they had a guest speaker, because initially they did not see it as a threat. So, and I think that's how that talks about the processes. You've got to go through the interventions. Sure, brochures are an intervention, or can be, but if they're not centered on the process of identifying the risk, posing the threat, and then finding a way to motivate them, you know, all your good intentions don't become interventions. They just remain intentions.
Yeah, and I think going along with that, the biggest.
Just
go for it, Avery. Just going along with that, I think the biggest thing to remember is that the health belief model is full decisions. It's not necessarily for broad target audiences, and so when it was tailored to them, that's when it had the impact. Not necessarily when it was just following the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that flyers are just so common. They're easy. Everybody can do them. And so it's like what Lori was saying and what Brandon, what you were saying, when they're centered on the people, when they make them personalized, I guess, is when it really sets into action, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think personalizing it's the key. I mentioned last week I was involved in a program, and this was like 17 years ago, but it was called Focus on You, and it printed out kind of an individual brochure, because you went in and you put all their personal information into it, and then it literally made up the brochure. So it showed what your body image type was. It compared your chronological age with your biological age. It showed you on a scale of what to what, where your risk factors lie. So there was the green, the red, the yellow, and it became your personal customized brochure, instead of just putting out there, hey, if you're not heart healthy, or, you're at risk for diabetes or whatever. And those are general broad statements. But when we made it very individual, and it was something they had in their hand with attached information, hey, if you're in the red zone, this is what it means. If you're in the yellow zone, here's how you can improve to the green. If you're in the green zone, don't take it for granted, but keep up the good work, kind of type thing. And so I think brochures are really effective, but like you said, Avery, we gotta customize it. We gotta personalize it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking on that tattoo, and,
okay, did we? Oh.
Yes, sorry. Did I lose you? I don't know how to stop.
No, it sounded like you were going to start something else.
Oh, I was just going to say, not to take us off of here, but on the scenario discussion, how it was talking about tattoos, I was kind of thinking about that same kind of thought process is, everybody hears, oh, yada, 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 they're hard to remove, whatever. But how they put up those images, like if a child is missing or whatever, and then they do that progression where it shows what they would look like now at age 10, what they're going to look like at age 14. I think it would be cool if there was some sort of app or some sort of something where you could take a picture of a person with their tattoo and then age progress them, or add weight to it, or whatever, and you could see, like, okay, this is what your tattoo is going to look like 5 years from now. This is what your tattoo is going to look like if you gain 40 pounds. Here's what, I don't know. So you could kind of customize it and go, oh, that thing's not so cool looking. Or, take that tattoo and say, if you have to have it removed, here's what it's going to look like. And with today's technology, you would think that maybe they would have something that would do that, but I don't know. I was just going off of Avery's thing about how to customize things.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that's a really cool idea. I had never thought of doing that in the same way that you would have, like with the missing child thing. That's really cool.
So do
Okay,
you
so we
think
kind
we're
of
ready
talked
to
over
go?
concepts applied to the smoking scenario. So, and then we've kind of already made the tangent into the tattoo.
No, sorry, that was my bad.
So, what are some of the influences that create the behavior of tattooing?
I was reading it. Didn't it say something along the lines of a lot of kids do it to be accepted by their peers or to be rebellious against their parents or that kind of thing? I think there's more reasons why kids get tattoos, but I think that those are some of the bigger ones.
I agree. I had a chance. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look into it, but I highly recommend it. It was a great article. Are you guys familiar? He's a physician that's on a talk show. His name's Reef, Reef, and the last name's Karim. He's a DO. And he's from the Control Center in Beverly Hills and at UCLA. He's on clinical staff. But, and I can send you the link to the article, but I looked up, behavior behind tattooing. And this whole article came up, and I mean, it had such great insight. I think it would be really helpful for all of us. I feel like it's going to be really helpful for me to complete, the assignment. But he was saying some of the motivation factors behind tattooing is a tattoo represents power. And it tells a story. But he says the things you need to look at is it has significant influence on people who don't know you well. So, you're going for a job interview or a date, or you're in a health profession, you're a physician or something, and you come in and you're all covered in tattoos. People that don't know you well already have reason to have negative assumptions that, that must have been one drunk night that you went and got that, or you're into self-mutilation, or you need attention, or man, you were really rebellious at one time, or maybe you have an addiction. And so he talks about how it distracts people from getting to know the real you. And I thought those were really cool is maybe the wrong word, but great ways to talk to high school kids, because it is cool to have a tattoo. And it is becoming more and more acceptable. But I think oftentimes those are the pictures they looked at. Oh, well, I'm popular with my peers, and it's going to tick off my mom and dad. Cool. I'm in a rebellious state. But they're not thinking down the road. And maybe if you kind of open up those, desire for people to know the real you, because it said, depending on where the tattoo's at, the number of tattoos you have, the shape, all of that shapes the viewer's opinion of you in one glance. And they said, as much as we tout, you can't judge a book by the cover, or, first impressions, blah, blah, blah. It's very real. And it's really hard to overcome. And then the last thing was, he was saying, it's today's generation where we have lack of communication. We don't talk anymore. And a tattoo, all you have to do is look. And then it tells their story. And so it doesn't involve you in conversation. All it does is it's another form of electronic communication. And so I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you guys want to read the article, but it was a quick one. And this doctor goes
Post
on
the
to
link
saying,
to the discussion board.
Okay, I will. I'll do that. I'll throw it on there. But so it might help with your paper, at least coming up with interventions, strategies for brochures or guest speakers or food for thought or whatever. Maybe show up pictures. What do you think when you see this? It's almost like that. What is it? The ink blot test, Rorschach's or whatever, where it's like, what do you see when you see this? And you hold up a tattoo and automatically you have a perception of that person just based off of what you saw for a split second. So I thought it was interesting.
Great. Felicitas, what was some of your thoughts on the tattoo article?
Yeah, I think looking at it from the health aspect, looking at how it can affect your health, because I read somewhere that people who have tattoos can't frequently donate blood. I don't know if that's correct. I read that once. So it also has the health effects, and the social effects too, just as what Laurie has said. In your community, how would people see you? Someone with a tattoo, it's really degrading. Like I know I have a friend, a female friend, one, and she had this tattoo with her, and recently she's regretting it, and she's taking it off. She had it like back in high school when she was a teenager. So there's so many aspects that makes it not cool, though everybody thinks it's cool. But if we look at other aspects, health-wise, socially, and even in our families, most of them use it to as a source of rebellion against family members. But it can also hurt our family members directly. Like just recently, I was discussing this topic with a friend of mine. I was asking him, what does he say about people who have tattoos? And he said, um, and I mentioned that once my other brother wanted to have one, and he told my mom about it, and he even said, "Don't worry, mom, that he's going to use my mom's face for the tattoo." And she was like, "No, I don't care if you use my face. Don't do that. No matter what you use, don't do that. I don't want it." So you can imagine, it was going to hurt her so much if he did it. No matter what he drew on his body, she isn't going to like it. So there's so many effects that having a tattoo can cause. In Africa, yeah, it's worse. It's worse there, yeah, than in the Western world, because here in Africa, like, it gives you a bad name so much. Even if you want to get married, most parents don't want their daughter-in-laws
Ah, did we lose her?
paint you black. Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah, so there, from the article, I really learned a lot. So what I knew so far, like, there are a lot of effects on how tattoo may be in the society, and there's so many ways you could get it over to young adults, and teenagers too, because most of them feel it's good. Most of them feel it's okay. I was on Instagram the other day, and I was going over, I guess most of us know Justin Bieber, and someone put his before and after photos. They're like, "Oh, Bieber said he's not gonna have tattoos. Now look at Bieber, he's all baited up in tattoos." And I was surprised that people that love Bieber, they love the Bieber without tattoos, and now Bieber is with tattoos, and people don't really like it. So most of these young adults look up to people like Justin Bieber and others, but they can also know that there's a flip side. Most of them don't see this. There are also people that don't see it as cool. So if we come from the health-wise, social-wise, what the society thinks and what our family thinks about it, I think in a nutshell, there's so many reasons why someone should kick against having tattoos, and pretty much that's what I think about the whole article thing.
I think that's interesting what you were saying about your culture, and how
Yeah.
how taboo it is at this point. And I guess
Yeah.
pardon my cultural upbringing here, but I always associated a lot of people from Africa as that being traditional, being commonplace, and so it's interesting to hear you say that the mindset's changing. I didn't realize that so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's like the reverse here. Now it's just exploding here and commonplace.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys have tattoos? I know it's personal. I don't.
I don't want to.
My sons, my one son and one daughter. I have 7 kids, and and I just kept saying, you're not doing it while you live under my house and until you're 18 and blah blah blah. But they did as soon as they were 18 and on their own. They went and got one, but they hid it for a while, and you got to give them their free agency. I kept saying, I'm just worried if you get skin problems from it or health problems from it, or that you're unhappy with it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. My daughter just went and got a sleeve, and I'm just cringing, and I'm like, serious. You just did that. It's something pretty permanent. And it's hard as a parent, you know. So this assignment is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like all the things I wish I could say or do and make an impact, but so far I haven't been able to. So.
I like how the article pointed out that some of the differences for the younger generation is there aren't very many barriers, but there's also not a sense of severity in consequences of getting a tattoo. Even though there are some health concerns, they aren't very prevalent surrounding tattoos at all. And so I think for most people, there's not that sense of severity, and with low barriers, there's not really from getting them, and I think that helps behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw, it just kept saying that it's more associated with risky behavior. I mean, it almost seems like it's a gateway, for lack of a better term. And so I guess just once you try not to open that floodgate, because then it's like, because this is an easy risk, and like you said, the consequences aren't noticed immediately. And so I think it gives him a false sense of power and a false sense of risk taking that, hey, I'm getting good at this. So.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking of like the media that's influence on tattooing, and the one thing that I thought of was Moana, like the new movie. It's the Maui has tattoos all over him. He talks about how it's his past, his history, and it's like his own, I don't know, personal journal or whatever. And so I guess that's what you're up against, It's becoming more and more of a thing where people are like, oh, this is, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just how I describe myself or whatever. And I wonder if, as we've seen, it's becoming more socially acceptable in America to have that. And so I think that's a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah, got Disney out there to compete with now. Pixar.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's part of our culture, like this Dr. Kareem said. We live in a very electronic communication. We communicate with emojis, and we communicate with abbreviations, and nobody likes to talk on the phone anymore. Everybody wants to text, and people will follow up with a thumbs up. It's minimal. And all of a sudden, if you can put your whole life history on your body and on your shoulder, enough said, and then it's just like, it's still another form of communication. And sadly, I've taken language courses. I mean, our language is dying. We literally do not know how to communicate anymore. The written language is all but gone. And so it's interesting. Maybe we'll just walk around with tattoos and nobody says anything anymore.
That'd be really funny. You have to spin around to show your tattoos so you can have a conversation.
I know. So, might be.
Maybe.
Anything else anyone wanted to kind of touch on or talk about from the tattoo article?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through it. It was interesting.
Yeah, it really was. Has everyone the application assignment?
Say that again.
Has everyone had an application assignment? No. Are there any questions that maybe the group can help answer before we all split to work on it?
I think I'm okay. I mean, I printed it all off. I think just the reminder to go back to, what was it, lesson 3 or whatever, and hopefully you kept your intervention tables that we had to fill out earlier. Do you remember those? It was an intervention
4 types
table.
of interventions.
So we had to give a detailed explanation and description, and examples. So like health communication strategies, examples would be social media, support group, pamphlets, Health policy enforcement strategies would be executive orders, laws and ordinances, environmental change. So you would pick one of those. And you remember he gave an email at the beginning of the week that says pick one of those interventions and then give examples of how you would incorporate it into this assignment. And so I think if you go back to that lesson 3, that intervention table makes it really easy. You just pull it up from your notes.
That was one of the questions I had is I couldn't, we talked about the 8 different kinds of interventions. So thanks, Lori. That answered my question of where to go look for that information.
We had to fill it out and submit it like the reading report, and it's called intervention tables, and you'll see it in lesson 3. So I'm sure you saved it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the thing now.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
And then I'll post you that link. That might help give you some ideas, for interventions.
Yeah. Felicitas, did you have any questions?
None so far.
I'm glad you got to join us this week. Sorry about last week.
No problem.
Cool.
Okay.
Be okay.
So we got to pick
time
somebody
next
for
week?
next week.
Yeah, same time.
Yeah, this works for me.
Good.
Okay.
And
And
Avery,
then
you
I
can
guess the
hook us all
last
up?
question is who wants to be group leader for next time?
I don't mind
like to
doing
do
it. If somebody, can you do it, Avery?
Next week.
Okay. And then I can do it the following week or whatever.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay. And you're cool, Brandon, to just hook it all up, download it. Or yeah, Brandon, right? Or Nathan.
Yeah. You're good to submit it, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm good to submit it.
Okay.
Okay. Cool beans. And then I guess you just give list of names, who was in the meeting, and then Nathan will look it up when he can.
Yep. All right. Any
All right.
more questions?
No, you guys are awesome. I hope you have a great week.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you
Let's
guys.
go.
Go Dodgers out here in LA.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, no, World Series. All right. Take care.
Okay, we'll see
Okay.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.